I have been a by-day worker on a farm. I have been a cleaner of dormitories. I have been a warehouse boy packing boxes. I was actually quite good at it. I have been a taxi driver. Do that. I'm going to bring in a policy, a new policy that says that Ghana's import duty for any good cannot be higher than Togo's import duty. You said we need to really look at an amendment of the Constitution. Our Constitution has been one that has served us very well over the last 30 years or so. It has served us very well, and it was built to provide us political stability. We need to reduce the power of the presidency. Even though I'm running to be a president, I don't think we need to have that as much power. We need to give some of that back.
To lead! Next to lead! The incoming president! Yeah! Bawumiah, you're tough! Bawumiah, you're tough! Next to lead! Bawumiah! Next to lead! Yes, Bawumiah! Next to lead! Second coming of Jesus Christ! Yes! We are tough! Next to lead, the incoming president. Yeah! Bawumiah, you're tough. Bawumiah, you're tough. Next to lead. Bawumiah, next to lead. Yes, Bawumiah, next to lead. Second coming of Jesus Christ. Yes. We are tough. Incoming president. Ignatius, who decides what it? We are tough. It is possible. It is possible. It is possible. Oh, yeah. It is possible. It is possible. It is possible. Bawumiah, you too well. We are tough. Who will not go to
To me
Brothers, friends, and sisters, we are here at the instance of the Vice President, His Excellency Alhaji Dr. Bawumiah. Except he appears before us today, not in his capacity as the number 2 gentleman of the land, but in his capacity as the presidential candidate of the NPP. He's wearing another hat today, not as you do know him, but as a servant who has come before you to explain his vision and seek your support. Well, in doing that, His Excellency is not oblivious of the fact that the Constitution in Article 55 or 16 forbids any organization to use as a collective its membership to support a particular political party. So he's not here to seek the support of the collective, that is of the organization, the forum. Of course, the members of the forum as individuals are citizens of this country and belong to communities. So I believe when he shares his opinions with you and you are convinced and persuaded, then certainly you may join the train and vote for him and seek support outside for him as well. But as I'm saying, he's not here to canvass the support of the forum. That one is prohibited by the Constitution. But as individual citizens, he appeals to you. If it touches your heart, then maybe you may pay tithe to him. Having said that, let me introduce those of us who are accompanying him. To my extreme left is your own Superintendent Minister. The Honorable Ignatius Bafu, who is the Minister responsible for employment and labor.
Understands the language.
He's a member of Parliament as well. He is not here in his capacity as a member of the manifesto team. But here, we just invited him because he's the Superintendent Minister. And we cannot come and meet you without routing it through. That's why we've done so. The minister here, Minister Kujo, is a member of Parliament for Efia, and is the minister responsible for state enterprises. Again, the same reason why he's here with us. Then the deputy minister, I think he's the kid on the block because he's been appointed immediately, not too far away, not too distant. He is a member for Upper Denchira East, and is the deputy minister at the back of the Honorable Bawumiah. That is why he's sitting behind him. He's in the shadow of the minister. Then we have the Honorable Rekun Broby.
One
Technical advisor to the minister. And there are other members of the manifesto committee who are here with me. But because we want to have a good feel of your thinking, they are sitting amongst you. I will not unveil their plaque because you may not feel comfortable if you get to know them, but you want to be free to be talking to whoever is sitting close to you, so we will have a real feel of your thinking. I'm your eternal servant, Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu. Maybe I describe myself as a leader emeritus because I don't know them. So, as I've said, the presidential candidate, the flagship of the NPP, is in the process of consolidating his own vision, which is going to be his social contract with the people of this country. Now, he recognizes that he is not a know-it-all personality, which is why he's come before you to, of course, put before you the broad contours of his own vision, but you may be filling in the gaps for him as you try to consolidate the vision. And when it crystallizes, then it becomes a social contract between him and the people of this country. But as I said, he will need your input. Vice President, as you come to know, is just one of you. He's one of us. He's passed through the ranks, and he will talk to you. I don't want to take this team out of what he intends to tell you, because there's a lot that he will tell you. As a common man who's risen through the ranks to be the Vice President, and that is why he talks about possibilities. So he's going to talk to you about possibilities within the context of probabilities. Listen, and when you have listened, and there's anything that is outside what he puts before you, you want to fill in by way of suggestions. We are here and we are ready. So,
thank you very much. One more round of applause for the close-up. So beautiful. I didn't know you were hiding such a good band amongst you. Please have a seat. Thank you very, very much. The Minister for Employment, Labor Relations and Pensions, Ignatius Bawumiah, MP also for Sunyani West. The Minister for Public Enterprises and MP for Ifia, Honorable Joseph Kujo, the chairman of my manifesto committee and leader emeritus. That means he's a Mugabe in leadership. Honorable Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu. We have the Deputy Minister for Labor, Employment, Labor Relations and Pensions, who is here. Festus is here. And also a key advisor of mine, who is well known to you, Professor Amankwa, the former Director of the Ghana Education Service, Forum Chairman and leaders of the various members of the Forum here present. I have my own Deputy or Vice Chairman of my campaign, who has just walked in here, Honorable Nana Akomia, who is very well known to you. It is an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to have this meeting with you this afternoon. I've been looking forward to it, and as they say, today is the day that the Lord has made and made it possible for us to meet today. I'm here, as Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu said, in my capacity as the leader and the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party in this year's 2024 election, the 2024 election in December 7th. And as I am getting ready for this election, myself and my team are putting together a manifesto that we will bring to the country for this election. But as no one person or no one group of people is a repository of all knowledge, if you are doing a manifesto to help move this country, then the people who are going to be affected by those policies should be heard from and should have an input into this manifesto. And so we thought it very wise to have this meeting so that I can tell you what my general view is the vision that I have, and then also listen from you, and listen to suggestions from you, so that I can take those, and my team who are here will also take all of those into account. So when we get back, we'll say, okay, what did the forum want to see in our manifesto? And therefore try as much as possible to align what we are trying to do with what the forum is saying. It's very, very important that we have this consultative process in putting this manifesto together. By way of background, have a relatively wide working experience. I have had experience in various fields. I have been a by-day worker on a farm. I have been a cleaner of dormitories. I have been a warehouse boy packing boxes. I was actually quite good at it. I have been a taxi driver. I have been a teacher. I've also been a professor. I've been a deputy governor of the Central Bank. And I've been a vice president of the Republic of Ghana. So it is possible. If you look and think about it, it is possible. It doesn't matter where you start from. God can make things possible. And today I'm seeking your support individually and the country's support for the highest position in the land, the presidency of our dear country. For me, as a person, I have grown up very much caring about the less privileged in society. That has been my constitutional makeup. This is where I find the most joy in work. You know, how do we help people who are not as privileged as us? So you'll see me as patron of the Lepers Aid of Ghana, where I'm working very closely to see how best we can take care of the lepers in the country who have generally ostracized, and looking at how cured lepers can be taken care of. I'm also a patron of the Mother Teresa's Soup Kitchen, where we are focusing on helping street children to find a meal a day. You see me fighting for restoration of teacher and nursing training allowances that I have done. You see me fighting for hydroxyurea to be brought onto the NHIS for sickle cells sufferers, which we have been able to do. You see me fighting for the rental assistance scheme to help people who cannot pay 2 years rent in advance, or sometimes 3 years rent in advance, with a scheme that pays it for them and they just pay monthly. We've rolled this out and it is helping over 1,000 people so far that we've rolled it out. You see me working to help Kyei, who will acquire skills and all of that in the process. So the sort of things I get very excited about, for the most part, in the public policy space has been policies that can help lift up people from poverty, people from vulnerability, and so on. I thought that today, coming to talk to you, I should maybe not focus too much on what government has done or what I have done per se. I think I gave a lecture on February the 7th to the country where I stated a lot about the various things that we had done in the area of infrastructure, digitalization, and so on. I think when the discussions come and I have to touch on some of those things, I will. But I think I want to focus more on the way forward. What I would like to do, God willing, if I'm given the mandate to be president of this country. What can we expect from a Bawumiah government? And I think that would really inform our discussion. For the most part, and for the forum, I'll be discussing some of the policies I have in mind, but I think that at the end of the day, my outlook is framed around a number of questions that you will be interested in. How do we reduce the cost of living for workers? How do we improve conditions of service of workers? How do we ensure that pensions are adequate for workers? How do we ensure that workers can get access to credit? And so on. So these are some of the questions which, what I will be addressing at the global macro level will have implications for some of these issues that I'm raising. Because at the end of the day, if we have issues that are not resolved at the macro level, they have micro implications. So when I talk about the government and how we reduce the cost of living and create space as far as the fiscal is concerned, is very, very key. One of the things that we have done over the years is that the size of government has grown. Some people say it has grown too large, but it has grown. And government seems to want to do so much in the economic space, build all the roads, build all the hospitals, and everything. In so doing, there's a burden that comes on government. And government is therefore in the process looking to either increase taxes or increase borrowing to do that. One of the key things I want to bring about is essentially to realign government expenditure and bring a part of it towards the private sector. Why do I say this? I think that we can provide a lot of the services without necessarily focusing on increasing government expenditure. The more government expenditure we increase, ultimately we have to tax more or borrow more. And when we have to do that, we create less space to increase the conditions of service of workers. If you have to spend a lot of your resources on paying interest on loans and so on, you end up with less that is available for the people who are doing the work, who are essentially the membership that you talk about, over 90% of public servants in the forum. So I have had an experience which I believe we can take across. When you look at the whole digitalization experiment, the policy of digitalization that we have started here, one of the interesting things about the digitalization policy is that most of it, if not all of it, has been led by the private sector. Most people don't realize it. The Ghana card, digital address, and so on, Ghana.gov, the digitalization of the ports and so on, passport office, all of it is a private sector-led program, which has meant that we have been able to do something to serve the public without government putting upfront money to do these things. Because if the government was to fund all of these, we couldn't have even gone as far as we have gone in the first place. We wouldn't have done it. But with the private sector putting upfront the money and getting paid in bits over a long period of time, it means that the government didn't have to cough up that money in the first place. And so I think that that model is also very instructive in our general economic management. Because if you take it to the universities, for example, you'll see, for example, that you go to Tech or you go to Legon, the hostels are not built by government. They are built by the private sector. And the students are renting them, right? So you'll see that they are managed and built by the private sector. And we have that service. And you will see, therefore, that there's no delay in the completion of hostels which are being built by the private sector. They build them very quickly because they know they are going to get some revenue coming out of that. And we can apply that philosophy across the whole country, whether you are talking of roads, whether you are talking of classrooms, you're talking of hospitals, you're talking of school buses. Government doesn't have to. Currently, if you're going to buy buses for 700 secondary schools, you have to accumulate all the money for the 700 buses and go and pay for them before you can distribute them. It then takes you a long time. So there are many schools which want buses and don't have buses because government doesn't yet have all the money to go and pay for the buses. So you can say that, well, the private sector give us a lease of 700 buses. They will upfront fund the 700 buses to the schools. Every school will have a bus, and we will pay them monthly or quarterly for the bus, for the use of the buses. And therefore, we don't have to look for that big money to do so. And therefore, the fiscal burden of providing these buses or so on will be much less. It's the same thing that we do with many, many pieces of infrastructure in the schools, for example. We could let the private sector do them, and we pay the private sector over time. And so and when we do that, this fiscal space opens up, and therefore we are able to improve the conditions of service of workers in a better way. But if your space is tight, you are not able to do so. So one of the things that I want us to do in terms of the fiscal space is to really move the burden, shift some of the burden of expenditure to the private sector. And we can provide those services government wants to provide without really putting up a huge expenditure upfront. And I'm looking at, therefore, shifting about 3% of GDP of expenditure from government to the private sector. And that will really open up a lot of space for government in terms of the fiscal space. I also want to make sure that in terms of control of government expenditure, we have an independent fiscal responsibility council to make sure that government expenditure does not exceed 105% of the previous year's tax revenue, so that we maintain a lot of discipline in that sector. So fiscal discipline, along with opening up a lot of expenditure, realigning that expenditure towards the private sector. So that's one major reform that I want to do that will allow government the space to improve conditions of service. The other area that I want us to look at in Ghana, the new policy framework I want us to implement, is to change the tax system. The tax system we have lived with it since independence and maybe before. That's what we've inherited. I've been looking at our tax system for a few years now, and you can see that the general consensus, whether you are looking at individuals, the businesses, is that it is a burdensome tax system. It is not a transparent tax system. A lot of businesses come in and they are given a tax bill and they are in perpetual argument with the tax authorities. How did you calculate this? They can't calculate it. They can't understand it. Same with individuals. And so there is not a lot of transparency. And so compliance within our framework, within our system, compliance is very low. In fact, many people don't even want the tax authorities to know of their existence, so they don't even file tax returns. In fact, that is for most people in the country. So, because the system can be complicated, and if you bring up your head and they see it, they may chop it off. So there's a need to have a simple tax system, a transparent tax system, a tax system that is also easy to enforce by the tax authorities. I've looked at this matter for the last couple of years, looking at what type of tax system will serve Ghana best and is very competitive globally. When I looked at the different countries and the tax systems in the different countries, I found out that the most competitive country in terms of tax competitiveness, the number one country in the world in terms of tax competitiveness is Estonia. Estonia has been number one for the last 10 years in a row. So I found it very curious, read a bit about their system, and then took a team, including GRA and other people, and we went to Estonia to better understand their system and why it was so effective and people were so compliant. Their system is simple. It is a flat tax system. Flat tax is, if it's 10%, you know it's 10%. It's flat, right? Is it 15 or 20%? That is it. So it's very easy to understand for businesses and for individuals. And then you see that compliance is very easy. It's like the tithe we pay in churches. If it's 10%, it's 10%. So that is very, very simple to do. So that is what I believe Ghana should move to. Ghana should move to a flat tax system, very understandable, and move away from this colonial system that we've inherited since independence that is not working. Many businesses come in, they receive tax bills, and they are shut down because they are not able to pay those tax bills. They are locked up. When they are locked up, that means people's jobs are taken away, and so on. And I believe that a flat tax system will really help us. And I think that by the grace of God, when we get into office next year, what I want to do is to let us all start on a clean slate, a fresh slate for everybody. And that means for all of those who haven't filed taxes before and all of that, we are going to give a tax amnesty to everybody, businesses and individuals. So all our struggles with GRA and all of that, we are going to start afresh. A new tax system, a flat tax system, and therefore we are coming with a tax amnesty. A tax amnesty, everybody will start on a fresh, clean slate, and everybody will be filing their taxes going forward very simply, because as for the tax filing, it will take you 2 minutes or 3 minutes. It's 10% or 15%. Just calculate it and you know what your tax is due. It's not complicated. But you see, one of the things that you may ask, okay, how will this now ensure compliance? When we came into office, only 4% of adult Ghanaians had a tax identification number. 4%. That means 96% did not have a tax identification number. So if you are GRA, you only have data for 4% who have a tax identification number. The rest you don't know. So when we came in, I made the suggestion that when we do the Ghana card, let's make the Ghana card number the tax identification number. And so this is what has happened. Now your tax identification number is your Ghana card number. So far, we've issued to adults in Ghana over 17.6 million Ghana cards. So now you have the Ghana card number as your tax identification number. And immediately, we have gone up from the 4% of adults with tax identification number. Now we have 85% of adults, from 4% to 85%. And you look at it from independence all the way to 2017, we had just 4%. Today we have increased from 4% to 85%, which means that GRA can tell now very clearly, because the Ghana card will tell you that these people should file, even if it is for zero taxes, they should still file. But now you know that these people have not filed. So you have the database to go after those who have not filed. And that is important, because most of the time, it is the formal sector, you and I, where the burden is on. It's not the informal sector. The formal sector is where the burden is on. And so whenever government feels tight or squeezed, they squeeze the formal sector to get more tax revenue. But if we can broaden the tax base and bring in more people, then the pressure on government to squeeze more from the formal sector reduces very, very significantly. So the flat tax system would allow, combined with the Ghana card and our tax identification numbers, will allow for more compliance in that sector. There's also a second leg of the tax reform that I want to look at, and that is to look at the import duty regime to match what we are doing for the income side. The import duty regime in Ghana is also one that traders and individuals who import have major problems with. Sometimes you import something and you think you're going to pay duty of, say, 5,000 cedis, but when it arrives, they tell you it's 7,000 or 8,000 cedis. And you may not be able to pay. They will confiscate the good and maybe end up selling it for 2,000 cedis. Isn't it? Yeah, they will sell it for 2,000 cedis. Meanwhile, you were prepared to pay 5,000. But they would have confiscated the goods and all of that. And so I want us practically to take away, and a lot of these have to do with changes in exchange rate through the period and so on. But I believe that if we say we shouldn't price in dollars, then we should start it at the port. Because if you start pricing in dollars at the port, it then reflects in the rest of the country. So if we believe in our currency, then let us price in cedis at a flat rate at the port. Let's price. So if a spare parts dealer is bringing in spare parts, I want flat rates so that the 40-footer container, you know that, okay, 40-footer is 20,000 cedis, and that is the flat rate. 20-footer is 10,000 cedis. So no matter when the container arrives, you know what the price is. It's very easy to comply with. It's rice, you know what it is. It's poultry, you know exactly what the flat rate is in cedis. And so, because if we keep pricing according to the dollar, there's an inflationary component of it, because the trader, when he's going to the market, he or she will increase the price to make up for the duties they had to pay, because there is no predictability. And not only are they increasing the price for today's duty, they'll start thinking, oh, if I finish selling and I'm going back, maybe it will change again. And then they will increase some more. And so there's this inflationary bias that is introduced if we don't bring predictability to the duty regime. And that's why I want us to do a flat rate in cedis and bring predictability to the import duty regime. The next reform I want to bring about in the import duty regime is to look at our competitor neighboring country, which is Togo. Togo, I mean, the Lomé port and the Tema port are very close together. And so, because our duties tend to be higher than their duties, a lot of containers are smuggled through Togo, through Lomé, and then through our porous borders into Ghana. That is what happens. And so we don't get the revenue of those goods coming into Ghana through the Togo border. I want us to stop that type of smuggling. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to bring in a policy, a new policy that says that Ghana's import duty for any good cannot be higher than Togo's import duty. You set a cap. Our duty cannot be higher than Togo. When that happens, nobody will have the incentive to smuggle again through Togo, because you'll just be wasting your time and money and effort and all of that. So we want to cap the import duty so that you don't need, we can be lower, but we will not be higher. And that means that the goods will come through our ports and we will get the revenue from our ports. And that will change the whole mix. Just simple policies like that will help us in so doing. I want to also bring in a new policy as far as the power sector is concerned. As you know, we've had challenges over the years in the area of power. And a lot of it has come, when I look at where we are struggling, a lot of it has come through our dependence on fuel oils to generate power. Whenever we have challenges with fuel, we have challenges with power supply, by and large. But I want us as a country to move away from the fuel oils to solar power to generate electricity in Ghana. I want solar to be really the heart of the generation mix. Right now, we are not really using a lot of solar. So my policy over the next 4 years, God willing, is that we should bring in 2,000 megawatts of solar power. That is doable. 2,000 megawatts. That's more than half our consumption of electricity. You add that to Akosombo, then you have really brought down the cost of power in this country. So that will bring down the cost of living, will help businesses to produce more, because ab initio, our businesses are very uncompetitive, because you're paying 14 cents, 13 cents per kilowatt hour. Your competitors are paying 5 cents, 6 cents to produce the same good. You will have a problem. You can't compete. So I believe that if we can move towards solar power and bring in 2,000 megawatts to start with, it will be very good. When I announced this policy on February 7th, 2 major countries have come since that announcement to say, each of them say they can do 2,000 megawatts in 4 years. And I said, oh, well, and maybe if you can do 2,000 each, then maybe we should do 4,000. So that each of you can do 2,000 rather than that, if the price that you are talking about makes sense to us. But I think that if we do this, there will be huge potential. The first major potential, if we can move towards solar, is that it gives us an opportunity to set up solar panel manufacturing factories here in Ghana. We shouldn't just do solar by going to import solar panels. That would be a mistake. 2,000 megawatts of solar power means a lot of solar panels. It doesn't make sense for us to be importing all of those solar panels. We should produce them right here in Ghana. Establish that capacity and then be able to even export these panels to the sub-region. And I think that will create jobs and create more opportunities for all of us. So I think that moving towards solar power becomes very, very important. I also believe that Ghana should refocus on large-scale commercial agriculture, mechanized agriculture. irrigated agriculture, apply more technology, and all the countries that have done so well, like Ukraine before the war that they're going through right now, have really focused on large-scale commercial agriculture, infusion of a lot of technology with irrigation to do that. And I believe that that will really help us bring down the cost of food. In the area of transportation, public transport, I am proposing that we move to electric vehicles. Electric buses will really change the public transport cost significantly. Why do I say so? You don't have to be buying petrol or diesel every day to run them. They are running on power, on electric power, the batteries that are charged. The parts of the vehicle are very minimal. So the two elements in the cost of transport in our country is fuel and spare parts. We can really bring them down significantly. Anytime the fuel prices increase, immediately they increase the transport fares. But when they come down, they don't decrease them. So when I ask, why aren't you decreasing them? They tell me the spare parts prices have gone up. So I said, okay, very soon we'll have electric buses. And I'm hoping that we can have at least even 200 electric buses to have a proof of concept this year before we even enter next year, so that people will see how the buses can bring down the cost of transportation in our country. And I believe that the estimates we have is that at least we will bring it down by at least 40%, which is very, very important for all workers in the public sector. And we're talking to STC, Nana Komia is here, Metromas, and they are all working, even VIP and all of that, towards Ghana moving electric and all of that. That will bring down the cost of transport very significantly. Then one of the other areas I want us to do, which will really help all of us, is the digitalization of the land registration and transfer titling processes. The digitalization will really allow all of us. Right now, the dispute over land, I'm sure we have all been victims, that you go and buy land and you think you bought it from the right owner, only to be in the middle of building and then you are told to stop work because there's a case filed in court that you are not the true owner of the land. The experiences of people is just so much in the area of land. And if you look at any country that has developed, look at all the advanced countries in the world, land has been one of the key factors, because the wealth in land is so huge. Because when you have land and you are developing land, it employs architects, it employs carpenters, masons, POP people. The employment that is generated in land is huge. Then you have mortgage markets developing. If you don't have a good sense of the title of land, you wouldn't have mortgage markets. Banks are afraid of even land as collateral because they could get themselves involved in litigation whenever it comes for enforcement. So they even discount, if you bring land, they discount your land asset as collateral. Sometimes they are not really interested in it. So if we are going to deal with this issue and allow mortgages to develop so that workers can buy houses and pay over 30 years, 25 years, then we have to resolve the land issue, the land titling issue. The best way to go about it is to digitalize the process. So we do the mapping of all the land and assign the ownership properly so that anybody sitting in your house, wherever, inside Ghana or outside Ghana, if you are given a piece of land and you enter the coordinates, you will be able to tell exactly who owns the land before you engage in negotiation. A lot of the times we are not able to tell. And then sometimes even you go to the lands registry and you're not given the right information. And then you end up in problems. So what we want to do is to digitalize the process for land registration. I know that a lot of land is stool land. And because it's vast, many of the chiefs don't register them because the registration fees for that vast amount of land can be high. So my proposal is simple. Let us waive those registration fees and allow all the land to be registered, because it is a very good piece of infrastructure for Ghana to allow all the land to be registered. When the chief sells the land, we can take out the registration fee at that point. But for now, let us make it open and allow anybody who is registering the land to register. When there is a transfer, we can take our money out of it. But for now, it becomes a very, very difficult process, and we should defer the fees until a sale is made. But I think that if we are able to digitalize this process, and I think that we have started some work towards this process already, and I want us to really actualize it. When we digitalize the process, it will make life much easier for workers. Let me just add one more thing associated with this. Because when I talk about mortgages, it means you are getting credit on the basis of the title of the property to buy the house or to build the house. That is the credit on the basis of the collateral of the property. One of the things in terms of the credit that really is important and makes a distinction between workers abroad in the advanced countries and workers in Ghana. One of the key differences is that workers abroad, when they are paid $1,000, they are able to spend $10,000. Workers in Ghana, if you are paid $1,000, you'll be even lucky for the $1,000, no, not $1,000, 1,000 cedis. You'll be lucky for the 1,000 cedis to see you to the end of the month. Isn't it? Yeah, so they are able to spend 10,000. You are not able to do that. Why are they able to spend 10,000? Because they have access to credit. In sub-Saharan Africa, only South Africa has a credit reference system for individual borrowers, individuals in the system. And this is why when we came into office, we said, look, let us put together something that allows us eventually to have a credit scoring system in Ghana. And now this is where we are headed. We've put together the key pillars for a credit scoring system. You have the Ghana card, which has now been linked to your bank account, to your SIM card, to your DVLA, to your National Health Insurance, to your GRA, and all of that. We are linking all of this. So when you pick the profile, the Ghana card number of any individual, you will have a lot of data about the person. And you can therefore be able to calculate a credit score either based on their bank information or even their mobile money information. And so Ghana is now, I'm happy to say, we are now in a position to start individual credit scoring. And Ghana will be the second country in sub-Saharan Africa to be able to do it. And we're going to start it this year. We'll launch it very, very soon. Bank of Ghana has given the license to the Credit Reference Bureau. And therefore, once you have your Ghana card, you can get onto the website and you put it in there and you'll see your credit score. And every lender will see your credit score. So it is on the basis of that they will make a decision to give you credit or not to give you credit. Today, without the individual credit scoring, we are all assumed to be bad borrowers, all of us. We've all been lumped up as bad borrowers. So if you go to borrow, they'll give you a high interest rate. And if even you are lucky, you'll get some credit. If you are not lucky, they won't even lend to you. So as it is now, we are all bad borrowers. You can't distinguish between the good one and the bad one. But once the credit scoring starts, people will be more disciplined, because if you don't repay, it will affect your credit score. And you'll be a bad borrower, you'll have a higher interest rate. If you're a good borrower, you'll have a lower interest rate, and the banks will now start making those distinctions. And I'm so happy, because this was one of my dreams coming into office, that Ghana will get to this stage where we can have individual credit scoring. And I think that in the next few months, I think this will be outlawed, and Ghana will begin the process of individual credit scoring. And I think it will be a game changer for all of us. And many, many more firms will be willing to provide workers credit for various things, whether it's for cars, whether it's for TVs, whether it's for furniture, and so on, based on your credit scoring. And that then expands the consumption possibilities of workers, so that if you are paid 1,000, you can spend up to 10,000. That is what the credit system does for you, and therefore you are not squeezed so much by the system. The next major reform I want to bring about in Ghana is to do with our natural resources. Our natural resources, our gold and so on that we have, I don't believe we have had the maximum value from these resources. We haven't, quite frankly. And I believe that it is time for us to really take another look and change the whole paradigm that we have been left with over the years since the colonial times in the natural resource management field. Let's think about it. Let's take gold. Let's take gold. Ghana is the world's 6th largest producer of gold, the whole world. And if you look at Africa, Ghana is the number 1 producer of gold. We're producing more than South Africa. Number 1 in Africa. Number 6 in the whole world. So when we came into office, one of the pieces of data that I was looking at around 2018 was our gold reserves. Our gold reserves. And I found out that Ghana's gold reserves were 8 tons. Single 8. Not even 10. 8 tons from independence, or even before independence, all the way to 2018, we had 8 tons of gold in our central bank. Then you look at other countries. The United States had 8,000 tons of gold. Canada, UK, France, Germany, and so on, they were in the 2,500 to 3,000 range in terms of tons of gold. Switzerland, and so on. But we, the producers of the gold, single 8. Single 8. It didn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm saying that, look, there is something that is upside down. We should be having the 8,000, and they should be having the single ones. But it's clear that the framework for the management of our natural resources has really consistently seen the shipping out of our gold reserves and so on. So in a couple of years ago, after I made a proposal to the Bank of Ghana that we should start buying gold. This is the gold purchase program to shore up our foreign exchange reserves. Why it is so neat is that we don't have to export to get the gold. We just have to dig it up. We are sitting on it. So the Bank of Ghana started buying gold, and now, as of today, we have moved from single 8 to 32. Single 8 to 32 tons. But I'm not satisfied. I think that we are going to have to do even more, much, much more. And so, if you look at it, the Geological Survey Department tells us that Ghana has 7 gold belts. from Axim Winneba all the way to Laura Nangodi. 7 gold belts. And you have almost 43,000 square kilometers, which is unexplored in the 7 gold belts. And they estimate that we have about 5 billion ounces of gold in that unexplored sector that we haven't yet touched. Now, 5 billion ounces of gold in today's money is $10 trillion. 10 trillion. Even if we access 5% of 10 trillion, it changes our economy. Just 5% of $10 trillion. It changes our economy. So I am saying, and so the issue is, why aren't we doing the exploration? When I talk to the Geological Survey Department and the UMAT and so on, they need more resources to do the exploration. I said, how much do you need? They said, about $10 million a year will be sufficient for them to do the exploration. I said, well, then why don't we get UMAT and some of the other universities involved in geological exploration to look at these gold belts to see exactly where we are. Then if we find the gold, then we should take a new policy. And my proposal is that once we find the gold, they explore and find the gold, the concessions on those reserves should be 100% for Ghanaians. We should reserve them 100% for Ghanaians. Because if we have the proven gold reserves, I believe we can get the capital to exploit those reserves once they are proven. And this is why I have a couple of ideas here. I believe that we should set up a minerals development bank that will be dedicated to the mining sector. And the second part is to formalize the small-scale mining sector. Right now, they are informal and they operate a lot of times under the radar and illegally in water bodies, in forest bodies, destroying the environment. But if we formalize them and license them and dedicate certain parts of the gold concessions to them, we will provide common user facilities to help them to extract the gold from what is mined. And then we have replanting and all of that as part of the framework. I believe that we can really make a lot of money out of it. And we will, under the policy I'm proposing, we will require a mandate that all the gold that is being mined under the small-scale mining sector, which is around 50 tons every year, we should sell it to the Bank of Ghana. And we will pay for it at the market price to the small-scale miners. And that will really be huge, adding 50 tons a year. 50 tons a year means about $3 billion a year. Think about it. 3 billion, that's just from the small scale. I've not even come to the large scale. $3 billion a year to be added to our reserves. How much did we go to borrow from the IMF? 3 billion. Look at the hoops that they are taking us through. 3 billion over how much? Over 3 years or more, isn't it? We can be getting 3 billion a year from gold, right, every year. And that can change our whole framework in terms of that. So I believe that we should look at this. And the second part of this gold, this management of our natural resources, the change that I'm proposing in the gold sector in particular that we are looking at. Because if we are accumulating gold reserves of the equivalent of about $3 billion a year in gold reserves, then increasingly what is going to happen? We will be backing our city with gold. The whole world, there's a clamor among central banks to accumulate gold. You do the research and you see central banks are trying to accumulate gold. In Ghana, we are sitting on the gold, isn't it? And all we have to do is to dig it up and get it. Increasingly, we will end up, and I made this statement on February 7th, that I want Ghana to back our city with gold. if we have a gold-backed currency, the issue of persistent depreciation of the currency will go away, because that will be the issue. And then, even if you have to borrow internationally, I don't think we should borrow just like that. We should issue a gold-backed paper so that we can repay in gold. That will really bring down the interest rates on that type of borrowing. And so we should maximize the benefits, and we are going to make sure that all gold that is mined is also refined here before we take it out. The beneficiation in terms of the gold reserves that are mined, we shouldn't just ship it out like that. And I believe that once we do this, we are going to empower our small-scale miners, who will help them grow to medium-scale and large-scale miners, and we will have major impact on our finances as a country. I believe that we have new growth poles that we should focus on: tourism, the creative arts, pharmaceuticals, and digitalization. I believe that the Ghana, frankly, right now in Africa, we are really at the forefront of digitalization. We have surpassed virtually most of the countries on the continent, and we are in fact competing with a lot of developed and advanced countries. When I went to Estonia, and we had a discussion on digitalization, because they are the most digitalized country virtually in the world. And when we had that meeting with their team, they were shocked to see how far Ghana had gone in the digital framework. There's just one thing that is differentiating Ghana and Estonia, in my view, just one thing that they have and that we don't have. Before the end of the year, we'll match them. We will have exactly the system they have. Before the end of this year, we will match them. And so we are at the forefront of digitalization in Africa. And we need to leverage that. I believe that the skills of the young people, the digital skills, our young people are extremely conversant, and they have an affinity for the digital skills, and we should train them. I believe we can train 1 million youth in digital skills. It doesn't require a university degree. All you need is to be able to read and write. That's all. You can be trained in coding. In fact, there's going to be a module for the Kyei. We are going to train some of them in coding. Yes, the Kyei. Some of them are going to be trained in coding, in digital skills. Some of them have senior high school certificates. They will be trained. A few of them are going to be trained as bus drivers. These girls are going to be trained as bus drivers, and all of that. So in terms of the IT sector, we believe we should really, because you can stay in Ghana and be working in Australia, just on your computer, be working in Germany. Once you have those skills, you sell them across the world. And so we should really help our people. 1 million skills, that's a million jobs that you're going to be creating, pretty much right off the bat in the digital side. The only restriction that we have now is the lack of skills, but we are at the forefront of digitalization, and we should do that. I believe that we need to revamp our state capacity, strengthen institutions such as the Labor Department and the Labor Commission. Part-time commissioners, we should make them full-time, and we should conclude the review of the Labor Act, and if it's not done before the end of the year, I'll make sure it is done when I am president, God willing, and all of that. We will get the Labor Act done. So I think also that we need to really look at an amendment of the Constitution. Our Constitution has been one that is served us very well over the last 30 years or so. It has served us very well, and it was built to provide us political stability after the turbulent years that we went through. The focus of the framers was, if you see how it was put together, is more to provide Ghana with political stability. But I think that we have attained political stability. We need a constitution that will provide us with economic development. And so I want to see a review of the constitution with that view, with a focus on economic development. And also, we need to reduce the power of the presidency. Even though I'm running to be a president, I don't think we need to have that as much power. We need to give some of that back to the people in the context of this that we're doing. The other thing is that we should all, as political parties, try and buy into a national development plan. I think there are various broad contours of, in areas such as education and health, industrialization, environment, and so on, that we can all agree to as political parties, so that we can amend Article 87 of the Constitution, and also the NDPC Act, to mandate our manifestos to go by the agreed contours, the broad contours that we will have agreed and have consensus, so that it doesn't matter which government comes in, there will be consistency in the implementation, of education policy, of health policy, and so on. So you don't have to go back, come again, go back and come again. One government will come and it is 3 years senior high school, another will say 4 years senior high school, and all of that. The inconsistency doesn't help our country. And so I would like to see us move in that direction. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said right at the beginning, if we can expand the economy, expand incomes, you'll have better pension benefits. Because if you are not earning a lot, how do you get better pension benefits? You should earn a lot and all of that. And if we implement some of these policies that I'm talking about, you increase the incomes, you better the conditions of service, you have better pensions. As I said, that my whole philosophy is that it is possible. Why do I say so? In fact, when the Closak band was playing the Bob Marley song, emancipate your mind from mental slavery. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I believe that our minds sometimes are not emancipated. We don't feel we are good enough. We don't think we can do better than the white man. We always think that it's they who have to teach us, and we have to learn from them. Not that we can take the lead and they will learn from us. I believe we can do better than them if we put our minds to it. And so I am saying that, Ghana, even if you look at what we have done, today, Ghana is the #1 country in the world, the whole world, in terms of delivery of medicines by drones. #1 country. #1. And all the people manning our drone centers, the 6 drone centers, all are 100% Ghanaians. Young men and women. 2 months ago, the mother company in San Francisco came to recruit a Ghanaian to go and lead a team in San Francisco on drone flight operations. Because the experience is here. They are the best in the world. We are the best in the world in these things. You have digital address system that we implemented. We are only the 2nd country in the world to do so. Today, We have the Ghana card, a digital ID card. The EU has asked all its countries to issue the Ghana card equivalent by 2030. 2030. They don't have it. Today, the US is discussing it in the Senate and the Congress that they should also issue a digital ID card. In the United States, they don't have it. Mobile money interoperability, they don't have it in the United States. We are the first country in Africa to do so. E-pharmacy, they don't have it. We are the first country in Africa to do so. So we have to understand that we can be the best. We can really be the best if we put our minds to it. And I want us to come together. And I want Ghana to give me a chance to take this leadership and to take the steer and drive this vehicle. I have a lot of clarity in terms of where I want to go. I want to fight corruption, and corruption really requires a lot of political will to fight it, isn't it? I've been fighting corruption with a lot of systems, digital systems that we have been using. When we faced the issue of ghost workers, I said, let every worker be identified with their Ghana card, isn't it? So every worker has fingerprints, but the ghosts don't have fingerprints. Immediately we said that the ghost disappeared. In the National Service Scheme alone, 44,000 workers disappeared. In SNIT pensioners, 19,000 people disappeared. The two alone saved over 700 million Ghana cedis a year. So systems can help us deal with corruption. That's what we have done in the ports, with paperless, DVLA, and so on. But you also need the political will to enforce corruption, but the fight against corruption. I'm prepared for it, and I want you to give me the opportunity and the chance to take Ghana to a different level. I believe that, and this is why we are consulting very broadly, I believe that we can do something new for our country, something much better. And I want to work very closely with you, to consult with you every day. I want to help. I want to help the vulnerable. I want to help the poor. I want to help the disadvantaged. I want to use this opportunity to change Ghana. Thank you very much for your attention.
Round of applause for His Excellency. And before we move ahead, a short musical interlude once we stretch our legs.
Mumble, anointing one shop, what university, and I will university, and I will poly, and I will maybe Biela will Biela, blah, anointing one shop. So we are blunt here, now it's so. Now when you school, that's always can be the hole, and now we are Benjamin Pom time, blah, anointing one shop, then found was some the 2 album prices, no. Now it's what post them and conference when you crack, and their child school fees. When you crack, and then be an old child, mammy, and now papa, and try by you, and child be I had night to football to make fun on the one shop, mamma. One we have Juma and Lanty and Mabawa, I'm one number bench, and then a bench be move. You walk top and down. You were t-shirt, you were shirt, you were boxer, you were singlet, you were joggers, you were jeans. You can't jeans, you were jeans. I never can have by intimidity. The work 20 shop for more. Hey, Papa Chafam now, work 20 shop for more, a form. Why, I got in your mom. And your mother for any back. And she's on 1,000 cities, 2,500. You may not be a bra, Mabuau. Any baby, you will to a flower station, Who are flower station? Because all here anointing one shop. Who call out upon your bachelor. Name so here to find here for a number 0243 63 3885.
Etufuo muba ebe ya mukama oba so hwe ma mi nyansa ya wo bag ya wo to say ya wo nyema bebre bitimi bi body ya wo nyema bebre ampa boa a day. Investing for higher no money be fanya maton. Edium business.
Miss Maria school, I'm a phone my a pet in Tadin Diad, but I'm not seeing Anna Mia the barn. And I'm saying Yama that fame. One man, I'm missing this car cry, they shield my Miss Maida. And that starts me business a car. And to the Pebia, I'm going to be one brown on 1.